friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. Len, this is our 200th episode. I don't know if you know that.
Oh,
Did you know
no.
that? Yeah,
No, I was
we're 200.
unaware.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've done this a bunch, I guess.
Yeah, almost.
That's the right way to put it.
It's going to be 4 years in a couple of months, 3 months, 2 months.
Yeah,
like that.
coming up on that.
That's a long time going at this show. And I'm sure there's a lot more to come. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, it's been outstanding. I think this year, this year is going to be a fun year for Bitcoin and Bitcoiners, but it's just another year that you and I get together Monday night with a few of our closest friends and chop it up on all the things that are going on in Bitcoin. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. Before we do that, let's get into the sponsors. EasyDNS. Mark is the man when it comes to registrar. He's your friendly neighborhood registrar, as he likes to say. So if you want to get a website started, you got some choices. You can buy a domain, port it over to Mark, or Mark can help you buy it. He's done that for us in both cases. And we're very happy with the level of service we received. By the way, not just because he's a sponsor of the show, but I think he actually was helping us with this stuff before we even partnered with EasyDNS, which is not much. It's not a lot of people you can say that about these days. Not many opportunities for just quality support. I don't know if you've ever tried Amazon support or any other big box store support. It ain't much, let me tell you. Mark is not like that. On top of that, for the Bitcoin enthusiasts, lots of virtual private server stuff you can do. Bitcoin node, Nostr relay, nodeless implementation, BTC Pay server, whatever. They got your back over there. And then, of course, the domain share suite of security features. Lots of ways to make sure you're protected. Don't get spoofed. Don't get hacked. Don't have somebody who is nefarious in nature commandeer your domain handle somehow and get your client list, email your customers, all that stuff. You can't have that. So go over to easydns.com. Use our promo code CBP Media. Mark will give you 50% off your first round of buys. Who's next?
Bull. Bitcoin. I don't know what the price of Bitcoin is, but I think it's over $100,000 just looking at the Moscow time. So a good time to sell, good time to buy Bitcoin. Whatever you want to do, Bull Bitcoin has you covered because fees are high. You could use Lightning. When fees are low, you can use on-chain. I checked earlier today. Fees are still very low. So still do your stuff on-chain. Don't screw around with the other stuff just yet. But learn it because you never know when you will need it. Either way, Bull Bitcoin will engage and be able to sell you your Bitcoin. They're non-custodial. This is what you want. Your Bitcoin's never going to get rugged because once you make your order, you have to provide them with an address in which to send it to you. Always reuse addresses. Sorry, don't reuse addresses.
Wait a minute.
Don't always generate new ones. That's right. That's the way to say it. So that way you're going to get your Bitcoin to your wallet. They don't hold on to it. We've heard many stories. We covered them all about people getting rugged for leaving their Bitcoin on exchange. They don't allow that. Just fucking put a new address, go nuts, and where you go. You could also start spending your Bitcoin in one of two ways. Number one, you could pay your bills. And so like if you have a car payment, you have electricity bill that you have to pay something, and you don't want to use your dirty fiat to pay it, you could use your Bitcoin, especially if you bought your Bitcoin a long time ago or have been buying it for quite some time and you made some gains. That's one way you could do with your Bitcoin. You could start spending it to pay your bills. The other thing you can do is buy gift cards that they offer over there. And with that, you could start spending your Bitcoin in the real world with the select vendors that they offer the gift cards. Because right now in Canada, you can't spend your Bitcoin directly with the vendor. So this is the way to get around it. So if you want to live on a Bitcoin standard, just the way Satoshi wants you to do it, this is the way you have to do it. Buy the gift cards, use your Bitcoin. So if you're not a Bull Bitcoin member or customer just yet, check them out. Use our promo code. By doing that, signing up using our code, you're going to get $21 added to your account once you provide the necessary information. Also, they are available in Europe and the European Union countries. So if you're listening over there, many different places you could sign up for Bull Bitcoin and take advantage of all the offerings they have. Again, non-custodial, privacy in nature. This is what you want in exchange. They are the best in the game.
Si vous habitez dans Europe, il n'y a pas un problème. Maintenant, c'est bon.
Yeah, as long as it's the EU, you're fine. So it could be Switzerland, Germany.
Yeah.
France, Spain, Portugal.
Bull Bitcoin's the best. Okay, let's do some housekeeping first. Last week on the show, who do we have, Len? Phil Bach, former managing director of the New York Stock Exchange. And did I do a Tuesday show too? I think I did. It was Mayor Ken Sim maybe last week.
Did you lower your volume? Because it's a little bit lower now.
Is it?
Yeah. He can't hear you. See, Boom Dust is saying that. Even I had to.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, maybe. Hold on, let me check.
So it wasn't just me. It's not my hearing is going bad. So yeah, we had Phil Bach on the show last week.
Phil Block. How about now? Is it better now?
No.
What?
So we had him on the show. Joey interviewed him last week as well. We had somebody else. Gosh, I'm gonna have to go through the archives to find who else Joey interviewed last week. It's quality entertainment here. So let's see. Yeah, you're still kind of low over there for whatever reason, Joey. I don't know why.
Now
it's way better. Yeah.
Better now.
Yeah. And we had Mayor Ken Sim come on last week, and he's the mayor of Vancouver.
I just say that he was a great interview. I cannot stress enough. I said this to him during the show, and I told him after the show as well that, Len, I joked before in the intro to that show. Thank you for listening, Len, by the way. Clearly you didn't listen. That you and I have rejected requests for interview on this show from CBC, Toronto Star, and politicians who I will not name. And the reason we do it is always why. I just don't think it's worth the time for the listener. I don't think it's worth the time for the viewer. And I don't think it's worth my time. I don't want to have someone come on the show and give me prepackaged answers and try and twist my words and all this other bullshit that you deal with when you talk to the media and when you talk to politicians. And when Mayor Ken Sim's office reached out to us, my first instinct was to say no. And when I thought about it for 10 minutes after we spoke, I thought, you know what, we should do it because this guy is trying to be a Bitcoiner and he's doing good work for Vancouver. He's been the mayor for 2 years. Let's have him on. And listening to a few interviews he's done, Len, he's always a straight shooter. The guy truly is sort of the kind of politician you want. A guy who, like he says, views his work as a politician as a passion project. That's not a negative connotation. It's, I care about the city. I care about the job I'm doing. I do not care if I get reelected. I have to do the right thing. That's important. So he was really good. And then Phil Block, I thought, for a guy who was, like, again, managing director of the New York Stock Exchange for 6 years, has founded companies, has done like, this guy's done it all in traditional finance. And for him to come on and decide that instead of talking markets, he wants to talk about just things that are going on in the world and how he feels about narratives and how he feels about culture. Like, that's another thing I liked about Phil. Like, for a guy who's, who could be guarded and could be very averse to having difficult or potentially controversial conversations because of his roles and because of the things he's planning on doing in the future. Instead, he goes all, like, you can't beat guys who want to go all in on the things they think and the things they believe. And, truly appreciative to both those guys for their time, because they could be doing a lot of other shit besides talking to me on a, weeknight. And for them to come on our program, Len, says a lot about them. I was really happy with both those interviews.
Well, it's wintertime. What else are you going to be doing on a weekday? So
I don't know. At night, I mean, for Kenny, it was like 4:00, so he could be like, going to get a beer somewhere or something, going to see his kids. I don't know.
Could be wrapping up council. I'm not sure if they're in session. And
I don't know. Good question.
I have no clue. But either way, he's out there. He's promoting a lot what he's doing with Bitcoin, and he was accepting Bitcoin part of his campaign quite some time ago. So
2 years ago he ran. So yeah, he's been he's not new for sure. And I want to thank Jeff Booth too. Jeff Booth was the one who told the mayor's office to reach out to Len and I. So I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you very much for thinking of us.
Yeah. Joey, for the next segment.
This week.
Oh, sorry.
BTC BAP, Zach from Spaces, Bitcoin Space Denver is coming on. I've said before, I've been critical of this whole like group working area. I don't know why you'd go to a group working area. Odell's got one in Nashville. Obviously, there's another one probably in New York, I think. I forget where. And there are others all around the country, all around the world. I don't get the hype. Zach's going to tell me why I'm wrong. And I don't know, Len, maybe we'll rent out a room in your house or something and start doing Bitcoin podcasts there. What do you think?
Do we have to, are these people paying for these, or is it a free
I think they're
thing?
paying for it. I don't want to say it's like WeWork, because that's definitely got a negative connotation around it now, but it's basically a place where Bitcoiners get together, make content, and do kinds of collaborative work. It's not all content, but think stuff like policy or stuff like engaging local politicians. It's a meeting place that's sort of geared toward Bitcoin, where you can bring people, I suppose, of all stripes, political, religious, or otherwise, and just have them in there and talk hard money. I think. Well, I mean, Zach will tell me on Wednesday. That'll be a good show.
Is it a place you could do DDoS attacks? At least start them up?
I don't know. Maybe. Sure. Yeah. Why? You know any foreign AI that needs to be DDoSed?
I have none, no, but one was, as you mentioned, hit today, which I find to be pretty funny. As soon as they released it, got all this. Well, I mean, it was maybe been released in a while for some time, but as soon as it got all this publicity, boom, they got nailed by that DDoS. So I found that to be really funny. And man, oh man, how fragile are markets. Just release one app, you could tank a company.
Crazy.
I don't want you to go down. Was it like 100 million?
Nvidia today. I don't know. I was tracking.
I heard it was
like
hundreds of billions. Like it was
600 billion at one point. It was down 17% today, so probably finished even higher than that, like even lower than that.
600 billion. Yeah. Like that's like 1/3 of the overall market cap of Bitcoin.
That's 100. That's 100 liberal fall economic statements of $20 billion misses.
That's another way. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the rigging later on.
Oh man! Shout out to my guy Arya Chandra.
Chandra Arya.
Brutal. Whatever. Yeah.
Area. I don't know. So I butchered your name.
We asked him to come on. Sir, you're more than welcome. Anyway.
It would be like, yeah, it'd be nice to chat. I mean, that guy's probably
Are we starting there? Where are we starting? We got to
let's do Bitcoin.
Do the boost.
Well, you know what? That's what I want to say. I couldn't fucking get the boost from Fountain.
Oh my god!
I can't. I can see people are boosting us.
Get Oscar Mary.
I have to talk with them. I can't find the fucking information. So every time I go there, I get timed out. So
oh no.
Thank you for boosting us, people, but I unfortunately can't read them because
we can see the stats. We cannot see the comments.
Yeah, what the fuck? So thank you very much. We'll make a few up along the way.
There's going to be the one guy who sends us the cheers emojis all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
unknown username.
Yeah.
MoBTC Dick 21 sats.
Yeah.
Who else? Always other people.
Yeah. Anyways, let's dive into the Bitcoin news.
I should tell you. I forgot to tell you this off air. I'll tell you on air. I sent Mark Ripito an extra large CBP shirt, so one less in the stable. Just so you know.
All right. I don't even know what's in inventory right now. But
I can't remember. Not much. Like a couple stragglers.
Yeah. Well, Ross, let's talk about him because he was free this past week, right?
Yeah.
And it was maybe
during
a
last
pretty
week's
big
show, by the way. I think was the.
Did it? Was it on the 20th? No, because Trump was inaugurated on the 20th when we did the show that day. It was the very next day. It wasn't a day one executive.
It could have been during Mayor Tim's show, maybe. It was during a show. I remember seeing it in the live chat, but it could have been that Tuesday show. You're right.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, he wasn't given a commuting of his sentence. He was giving a full pardon. And there's a difference between the two of commuting, because the commuting of a sentence has him finish his jail term, but still has on the record, his record, the crime itself. The full pardoning basically excludes that. It erases it from his record. So moving forward, in case he has to apply for a job, a passport, whatever the heck, he doesn't have anything on his record that will prevent him from getting whatever he has to get, like even loans, whatever. So really, it's a big move by Donald Trump, and he's done this at the behest of all the Bitcoiners out there trying to urge him on. Let's be honest, if it wasn't for a lot of people out there, and I wasn't one of them, I've been pretty quiet on the whole Ross front. There's been a lot of people that have been very vocal, and good for them to make this happen. And a lot of Bitcoiners obviously rejoiced because this is a big move by Trump, and it shows that he's listening to a group of folks who have yet to have been listened to before, which are Bitcoiners. When was the last time that a prominent politician, aside from Ken Sim maybe, appeased a lot of these Bitcoiners out there? President
don't say Lummis anymore.
It's
rare. It's rare. You're right.
Yeah,
never, probably.
So if you go back to Ross, and without going too far into it, I mean, really, I think the thing that people were pissed off at was really one of two things. It's either the length of his sentence or the fact that he is serving time, right? Like the sentence was 2 life terms consecutively. So, and plus another 40 years on top of that. So, really it would be the rest of his natural life in there. Murderers have gotten far less than that.
Especially if you're here illegally, you get a lot less.
So
just fucking insane, by the way. But yeah, Ross, congratulations. Doesn't need to be in jail. They didn't have anybody killed. Just ran a website where people were selling T-shirts and other shit and drugs.
There's a lot we don't know. That's the reality. All I could say definitively is that the length of the sentence was incorrect.
Yeah,
somebody was trying to make an example out of him, or he rubbed somebody
For
the
sure.
wrong way.
For sure.
Maybe a combination of the two. The fact that he should have been in prison or not, I don't know. I don't know all the facts, and everybody out there really, it's hard for them to absorb all the facts. From what I gather, what did he do? What did he do? Really, only he knows. Maybe the people that investigated this. Other than that, I mean, in the end, though, it's a good thing he's out because, like I said, the sentence was too darn long. And one good thing he did with Bitcoin, he proved that it could be used as a medium of exchange. And to this day, it's not really being used as a medium of exchange. This is the one thing that's really holding back Bitcoin, in my opinion. And I'm guilty of this too, of not using it as a medium of exchange, but I'm using it more of a store of value, just like a lot of other people are.
Right.
But the website he ran, the only way, one of the ways you could buy stuff would be with Bitcoin. So that proved there's a case use for Bitcoin. And that was done at an early time, long before Bitcoin was on the radar of some folks. So that website alone helped move Bitcoin along and helped mature it much faster than it would if that website wasn't in existence.
Yes.
So with that being said, like, you got to give him credit for putting that website out there and helping push Bitcoin further along in its maturity process.
Not much else to say about it, really. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. It's overdue. I see Boomer in the chat talking about how libertarians played a role. There's some debate about that. I think that really this is a lot more to do with Bitcoiners than it is to do with libertarians. Now, libertarians, of course, want the guy to be free as well, but had basically no voice, including the president of the Libertarian Party, who seems to, in the last week, have become semi, niche internet micro famous because she was in the space, I guess, and Ross's mother called her and told her first. But I really do attribute this to the Bitcoiners, not only because we were the loudest voice, Len, but because, Bitcoiners, especially in the United States, they just made so many campaign contributions to Trump and had so many positive points of contact with Trump. There's almost no doubt that was the thing that pushed it over the edge. So libertarians, it wasn't a zero, but it's not even close to the influence that the Bitcoin crowd had, in my opinion. It seems to me like that's pretty obvious.
I have nothing to add to that. This whole topic, there's not much I could say about it, because as much as I sympathize with him, it's hard for me to really just talk much about it, because it's a story. I don't know why it just didn't interest me all that much. I feel bad for the fact he was put in jail for that length of time. But again, without knowing all the facts, and it's impossible for me to know all the facts.
Totally.
For whatever reason, I never found it to be all that appealing a story. But in the end, he lost basically his 30s, or it's gone.
Yeah.
That's a good chunk of his life, earning power. And there's so many things you could do in your 30s.
What do you make of this bit about the story that he's got dormant Bitcoin, 250,000 dormant Bitcoin?
I have no opinion on that. Do you think that's the case?
I don't know, honestly. I suppose we'll find out. I mean, someone was, I think it was one of these XBT accounts on Twitter that was tracking what they thought were the wallets that belonged to Albrecht. So I don't know. I mean, the Silk Road Bitcoin was confiscated, but his personal Bitcoin, perhaps not. I guess we'll find out.
Leads to the question: if indeed he has it,
should it become the Bitcoin of the strategic reserve? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what the laws now that the sentence has been pardoned. Or sorry, his crimes have been pardoned. If indeed he has it, and he starts flaunting he has it, and using it for transactions.
Yeah.
Does the United States have any claim to it, saying, based on...
It'd be a tough sell, right? Because
he's been pardoned.
Yeah. So
right. So I don't know.
Sentence not commuted. Maybe that was part of the backdoor, dealings. I have no idea. I wish I knew. Now, it's interesting though. An interesting legal question for one of you legal heads out there.
Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly honest, in the end, it's going to be up to the judge and his or her, how or he woke up that morning and decided how they're going to.
Laws don't matter in the United States is the secret here. It's all about whatever people think this is the best thing for me.
Yeah. Well, like this digital asset stockpile, what people were thinking was supposed to be.
Oh fuck!
Really...
What a mess. Can we take a victory lap here? Do we have any non-trademark victory lap music? I should have thought about this before. Me and you have been steadfast on this program, I think, in my opinion, about whether or not we should be embracing politicians who support Bitcoin. We had so many live chat comments over the years, and so many comments from guests, and so many comments from people who tweet at us and email us and fucking leave. Like, if there's a place to leave me a comment, I've seen it. And it's always, we need to support people like Cynthia Lummis. We need to support politicians who want to do Bitcoin properly. We're going to support people who want to do the reserve. I said on this show so many fucking times that all Lummis's bills had crypto in them, all of them. That all these bills about SAB 21 and about fair accounting and like it's all crypto. We were critical and have continued to be critical of Michael Saylor. Doesn't stop me from making a mint on MSTR, but I'll tell you that we've been critical of that guy when almost every other podcast was slobbing his knob over the last 5 years. He's the Bitcoin CEO. He's driving Bitcoin, the Trump max, the at the money issuance. It's an infinite money glitch. All that shit is fine. But what's he tweeting now? What's he tweeting? Crypto,
crypto, yeah.
Crypto. Friend of the show, SB, and I had a discussion about this off the air. I should just bring him on one day and we'll just go back and forth with each other on this about whether or not Saylor is just playing the game. This is an argument I've heard a bunch of. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I don't think the people who were, again, like trying to suck the unborn kids out of his cock, okay, over the last 5 years would have told you that he was, quote unquote, playing the game. They told you he was the maxi. They put that there is no second best video everywhere. Well, sure as shit seems like you think there's a second best now, Mike, doesn't it? That was a dishonest, I think a dishonest period, to be quite frank with you, where he was not being completely forthcoming about what he thought, what he was supporting, and this, that, and the other thing. Now, this is not to say that a strategic crypto asset reserve, whatever the fuck David Snakes is pushing on Trump, is not going to be good for the Bitcoin price. It is. But is it good that we embrace, I say we, that the United States embraces all this other garbage, Ethereum, Solana, whatever? Like, Sachs is a VC guy. There's a lot of VC guys around Trump now. Trump is a guy who likes making money. Who doesn't, by the way? Not a negative personality trait. But if you think that all this stuff is going to be good for quote unquote, like Bitcoin as the apex asset, I honestly don't think it is. Doesn't mean numbers not going to go up. Doesn't mean that, people are not going to be richer for holding Bitcoin, but it does mean that people are going to be less sovereign because they're holding other shit instead, trying to make a quick buck. And that really is the thing you have to think about in a lot of ways. Are you going to bring people in with the shiny object dangling over them and say, look, if you own like all these other things, look at the stuff the Trump organization just bought. They bought Solana, they bought Ethereum, they bought whatever else, some other shit coins, I forget what. We should just mirror that bag because there's no way those kids be buying stuff that wasn't going to be in the reserve. There's no way the kids be buying stuff that wasn't going to be supported by the government in some way, implicit, explicit, or otherwise. Those people will buy that stuff and they will lose on the sovereignty. They will lose on the freedom that Bitcoin grants, censorship resistance, the portability, fungibility. You can do that if you like and be perfectly happy, I guess. But the idea that all these guys who were like, I'm running out of ways to describe the hoovering of this guy's tip that was going on over the last 5 years. And all the while, me and you were saying something ain't right here. I think we deserve some flowers for that. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if Mike, ends up changing his tune at all. I don't know. Maybe he'll stay a maxi. Maybe he is just playing the game. Maybe all this will be for naught, and you and me will be laughing on a Italian peninsula in 5 years, just rolling in absolutely monster UTXOs, and maybe not. Who knows?
Well,
but
you've been more critical of him, I think, than I have.
Yeah, but whatever. But you haven't been uncritical. You haven't been slurping. You haven't been glazing. You've just been sitting.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't want his company to not succeed. I prefer to succeed. I have no skin in the game. I don't want to see it fall on its sword and die. He is, at the very least, he's brought Bitcoin to talk to it into Wall Street. I'll give him credit there. I wish, and I say this a lot, I'll say it again, I wish that they did buy Bitcoin and store it themselves and to hold on to the keys. Why? One of the beautiful things about Bitcoin is because it's digital, you don't have to have it physically stored somewhere else like fucking gold. You could just hold on to your keys. And that's one of the things I wish that they'd done as a company and just prove that's something that this is the way things should be done. And they never done that. I don't want to, that's a dead horse. I don't want to keep beating it, but it's too bad given he's talking about crypto these days. Maybe he is playing a game. I don't know. In the end, he's still going to do what he has to do. He's still going to sell debt. He's still going to dilute, and he's still going to try to buy more Bitcoin.
Well, he's also now hedging a little bit. I think. Like, I'm not an expert.
I was just going to say that I think he's only going to buy Bitcoin.
Well,
am I wrong?
No, but he's hedging because he's introduced a preferred stock. Right?
What is this? I saw that it's not more fiat. I mean, I can't stand this fucking shit, by the way. It's driving bonkers.
We need SB to give us a breakdown on this because I am not in a position to talk about this.
But like
it seems today, to me like he was all about at the money, accruing Bitcoin, sats per share, all that stuff.
Oh, that's another thing that's fucking nuts.
This is different. This is different. So like, why issue this? And you can I know
how much money did fucking Nvidia lose today?
Huh?
How much money we said Nvidia lost 600 billion,
700 billion, something like that.
And I don't know about if Meta lost anything. I have no idea if Microsoft. I don't have a fucking clue. Like, so many people are losing their minds because of the amount of wealth that they lost today. And I can say this confidently. The only thing I care about really is how many sats I have tomorrow compared to today. And if the number's higher, I'm happy. I don't care if the value of the Bitcoin has gone down relative to US dollar in that one day, because in 10 years it's going to be way higher. I don't have to think about all this shit after hours, looking at charts, reading fucking news, what I'm going to invest in next. The only thing I fucking buy is the one thing is Bitcoin. That's the one thing people should. So when he's talking about doing this, selling these preferred shares and all this, it's just fiat trash. Like, it's just more things you got to read, more things you got to fucking dive into. And all that time you just simply just fucking buy Bitcoin and do something else in the meantime. Just wait.
That's
right.
Fair.
That's it. That's really it.
No one is saying you're wrong, but I will say that I have to at least, quantify or give a little bit more disclosure here about the MSTR common versus preferred. He says that he's going to use the preferred stock income to buy Bitcoin. Remains to be seen. Part of
he's been doing this continuously.
By the way, this was not. He did a fucking hour-long presentation at the Q3 call in 24 about this, $80 billion, whatever it was, $42 billion plan, 21 and 21, right?
Yep. It's 42.
And he didn't mention preferred stock even once. And then 4 months later, he's got issuing a preferred stock. So, again, the lesson here, and I think the takeaway here is you cannot give your trust to anyone. You cannot stake your wealth on anyone. There is such a thing as operator risk. This is operator risk on stilts. Okay. You are at the mercy of this guy's whims and impulses, best and worst, if you are an MSTR. If you can handle that, cool. I'm guilty. I've been there. I still have some MSTR. That's what I'm doing. Len is not doing that. You don't have to do it either. But you're at the point now where this guy is doing stuff that he didn't tell you he was going to do 4 months ago as part of this plan for $42 billion. So this is separate or a little bit of a hedge. I don't know. Someone's got to tell me, what I should be looking at here to make a decision. But to me, could do without, honestly, at this point, all this stuff. There's never been a better time. I shouldn't say better. There's never been an easier time to buy Bitcoin and basically not worry about anything except the US dollar price, if that's what you're worried about. You don't have to worry about legislation. You don't have to worry about, I don't think for much longer, tax implications. I think you're probably fine on all those fronts over a 10-year plus horizon. So never been a time where the tailwinds have been more obvious for Bitcoin, and the headwinds in traditional finance, including MSTR, have been, as strong as they are now. Maybe now someone for sure is going to chew my head off for that, but it's interesting is all I'm saying. And it's something that we have to keep an eye on. That's it.
There'll be a point in time, and I know you said it looks like it's not going to be the case, but there may be a point in time in the future that it will be harder to buy Bitcoin wherever you live. And so why risk that?
Bitcoin's going to go the way of the dodo at some point for sure.
So why risk it? Why not just buy what you can now and avoid later on when you're going to have to liquidate?
Well, okay, let me ask you something.
It'll be maybe difficult to do it. I can't predict the future, but I can tell you it's easy now.
Did you see the Fink comments about tokenizing equities?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I glossed over it, but yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with it.
People, the sort of midwit is saying, well, how does tokenizing equities help with anything? I can already buy and sell 24/7, blah, blah, blah. Tokenizing equities.
You're taking away a lot of the middle person there with brokerages and shit.
It becomes P2P a little bit, right? And, if you can start using tokenized equities, it's funny. Every time we talk about stores of value and mediums of exchange or spoke about this, let's say 5 years ago, people would always say, why would I would much rather, or you say to people, like, everyone is storing value in Apple stock instead of cash. Like, no one keeps cash. They'd much rather keep it in Apple stock. That was sort of the standard. And it is still the standard in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. So, people who keep their cash in Apple stock will say to you when they're talking about why they don't own Bitcoin, they'll say, yeah, people value Apple stock, but it doesn't mean that it's cash. No one will give you Apple stock for services or goods. Well, now they can, if they go this direction, right? There'll be some regulations around it, I'm sure.
The question is, who
owns it? Who owns it? Yeah, I agree, right?
Right? Like, it's going to probably be a note of one.
Yeah.
Whoever was the issue. Or
you're right. You're totally right. But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, like, tokenizing equities and allowing them to be sort of P2P, if they go that direction, like, you will see cash disappear overnight. No one is going to want cash for almost anything if you can give them Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Google stock, Bitcoin, whatever.
You're not buying Nvidia or Google or whatever with cash right now. It's still very much electronic. It's with your bank. You move it to your.
What's the difference? Yeah, but if you tokenize, I'm saying.
Cash is a totally different thing. Cash is slowly dwindling in terms of usage. Less people are using it now than it was 10 years ago.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily talking physical cash. Okay, we can talk about bank account tokens.
You're talking about just general cash having like money in your.
Like, why? Like, who's taking currency, CAD, for anything if they could have Apple stock instead? I'm leaning on Apple stock here, but it's sort of representative of the
now. It goes to the question: is it going to be taxed the same way as a commodity, the same way?
It's a good question. That's what I don't know, right?
If it is, then very few people are going to use it as a medium of exchange because that's an administrative headache. If you're going to adhere to the letter of the law of the land, and if that's the case, you convert to cash, use that, and then you don't.
What's Fink want? We got to find out what Fink wants, right?
I don't understand how much power this guy has.
All of it. All of it.
I still don't get it. I mean, Bitcoin should make this guy irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like, it should make this guy a footnote in financial history.
A lot of money over there, Len. A lot of influence.
It's a lot of money. But what could he do if you're holding on to a worthless piece of paper in the end? If they as a company, they manage a whole bunch of things, but really that has to be converted into Bitcoin somehow to make them worthwhile moving forward. I think. I don't know. I don't give a fuck about Larry Fink. I don't give a fuck
neither. It's just interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment, right? Like, equities over CAD or US dollars.
Well, this SAB 121, this is the banks that could custody Bitcoin, came out this week. Yeah, SEC decided to rescind that order. And there's a discussion going on in one of the chats we're in, Joey, and it was discussing, does this make ETFs, a Bitcoin ETF, obsolete? Because now you could simply just buy with the bank and have them hold it. So management fees are pretty much identical. If you look at typical management fees for holding on to gold, for instance, versus ETF, the gold ETF. So you look at this, it's just another offering. I don't know how big a deal this is in the end. It just gives them the opportunity to hold Bitcoin. And I they're insolvent. Banks already are insolvent. Would you trust them to hold on to your fucking keys if you had the option? Hell no. So why would anybody even use this as an option when it comes to Bitcoin? I could kind of figure out why you want to use the ETF, because there's those tax advantage accounts. Like in Canada, we have the TFSA or RSP. But why would anybody want to use the bank when you could just?
It's terrible. It's actually even worse than that.
Am I wrong?
Like, no, you're totally right. And you could even go a step further. The reason you would hold the ETF is the tax advantage for sure, but also because it's easier to sell back to CAD in the ETF than it would be going to the bank and doing a transaction. It's actually crazy how much nonsense paperwork the bank makes you do for the most mundane things. I'll give you an example. Last week I had to go to the bank because I received a letter from TD saying that a bank draft that I drew up in 2018 had not been cashed 7 years ago. Okay. So they waited 7 years to tell me, number one. I drew up a bank draft. My wife and I will meet
somebody
when we moved in. Okay. So this is a long story, but I'll tell you. In 2016, my wife and I moved in together. And before we moved in, I went to a lawyer and had him draw up what the millennials would call a no-nup. Okay. So I don't want my wife to have access to any of my savings, any of my investments, any of my retirement funding. I don't want anything to do with a court battle if we have a falling out. And the other big thing was that if we buy the house together, then the house is sold if there's a split in the relationship. Can't buy, no one's buying me out, no one's getting bought out, the house is getting sold. That's all there is to it. Sold, split down the middle. So I went to this lawyer, had him draw it up, and he sent me the first draft. And when I showed it to my wife, we went through it together, and there was tons of mistakes. Tons of mistakes in it. Not only in the content and what I asked for in terms of like the actual legality of the thing, but little shit like names, dates, my address, all this stuff. He didn't pay any attention to what I told him. And so I emailed him and said, we're not going to be using him anymore, and thanked him for his time. He sent me an invoice for, I think, about $1,000. And I decided that I wasn't going to pay it. And then when his office was getting ready to close, he was retiring, I understand. They sent me another email and said, look, you still owe this money. We're going to send to collections if you don't pay. So I wrote him a letter, and I wrote him a $350 bank draft. We gave him a $350 bank draft. And I said, you really should the bet on the service, and the product was subpar, but I do appreciate that your time is not free. And so I want to meet you in the middle here. I'll assume if I don't hear from you again that this matter is closed. And so I never heard from the guy again until the last week. Get this letter
from the bank.
From the bank. I heard from him. Yeah, that bank draft could be sitting on his fucking backseat
mantle
in his car or something. Yeah. And so he never cashed it. And so I went to the bank to
he Ricky Henderson that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He fucking Ricky. He put it in his wall.
So I went to the bank to get the money back, and I was there for almost half an hour, Len, signing my name on document after document, telling them the authentication code on my phone. They were sending me these text messages to make sure it was me, asking me where I live now and about the bank draft and about the service rendered and all this other tons of shit for $350. Can you imagine what they would ask you for if you wanted to sell or send Bitcoin that they were holding? How long a process that would be? Could you imagine?
Just running this in my head at the time too, that was worth almost 10% of a Bitcoin at the low around that time. Like it's an incredible amount.
It was a lot.
I mean, I know this is a totally different topic altogether. Certainly the banks are very inefficient with the way they do things.
That's all they know.
Your time, theirs.
Also, bank tellers not as hot as they used to be either, which is another downside. Going to the bank used to mean at least you get like a decent looking bank teller. So, don't throw your tomatoes. I don't give a shit what you think. Joey's being a jerk off. No, fuck you. The banks used to at least be fun for those reasons, right? And now they're just not fun at all. And there's nothing fun at the bank. Nothing. You wait in lines. You sign paperwork. No one's talking. The music's shit. They got a running billboard behind them or TV with all the advertising about how they're all pursuing carbon neutral shit, and interest rates are
Did it
sky
persuade you
high. Interest
to
rate
buy
on your
it
savings
into-
account 0.05%. Sign up
I
today.
want a bond. I want a
Fucking
5-year right now,
shoot
damn
me.
it.
GICs in pictures of kids in a field with a dog. GICs get you into a fucking food bank if they got food for you when you get there, of course. But broadly speaking, banks just absolute nightmare. Terrible. Absolutely fucking brutal.
You know,
Yeah, Mark in the chat, they're
it.
like sloths. It's so true. It's honestly unbelievable that the banks, this is the other funny thing, right?
Oh, wait, but I just want to go back. Imagine if you just sent Bitcoin and you could verify it was sent and it's gone. That's it. That is so simple. You wanted him to get
probably
paid.
would have been happier too. You know,
he would have got 1/10 of a Bitcoin at this, and it'd be worth around 10K US.
Get the money. Fucking brutal. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe. Like just the two things that were big for me was the amount of paperwork I had to sign over $350. But the other thing, Len, that bank draft is 7 years old. You waited 7 years to tell me that no one cashed it? 7 years.
They had to make sure.
What if it was no, you know what the problem is, Len? That money is collecting interest for them somehow, some way, for sure. I don't know how, I don't know what the mechanism is, but for sure, they're not just letting that money float in the ether for that long. And so that's why they wait super long.
That's how they're going to remain solvent. So when there's a bank run, they're going to be holding on to a bunch of people's bank drafts worth $350, and that's going to be able to keep their heads above water. So this might be their way of just mitigating any bank runs.
Unbelievable.
Don't process.
Anyway, so if you need the name of a lawyer who won't take your money, let me know.
He's retired.
He's the only guy on the planet who won't take the money you sent.
But he's retired. I think he said he's retired.
Yeah,
so
I think he's retired now. Yeah.
He's long gone.
Anyway, okay, so SAB 121. The thing that this is important for two reasons. The holding your Bitcoin thing is one piece. People can go to the bank to hold Bitcoin. You know, before SAB 121, there used to be a rule that if you held Bitcoin, you had to hold it as a liability. So you had to collateralize that liability with more cash or more fixed income, whatever, or more fixed income securities. What are they called? I forget. Bonds or whatever. Treasury notes, short-term loans, whatever. And banks were just like, no, we can't do that. The Bitcoin we're getting now is not $3,000 of Bitcoin. It's $100,000 of Bitcoin. We can't. How am I supposed to hold this and have to collateralize it at 2 to 1 or 1.5 to 1? Those rules were all different. Not to mention that the big thing with SAB 121 was that even the banks that wanted to do it and collateralize it were told under the table, you better not, because if you do, the scrutiny that we're going to put on your head is going to be something that you're not ready for. It's going to cause problems for your operation. It's going to cause problems for your mental health. And so all these things were going on. So I'm happy to see this repealed or on its way to repealed. Fantastic. It's great.
Whatever. It's
directionally signpost thinking.
Yeah.
Directionally, this is a good thing.
The one big thing, I don't care about strategic reserve. I don't care about even countries mining Bitcoin. I mean, to a degree, I care about that one. But I think the big one is not having be subjected to taxes, like capital gains taxes,
de minimis taxes. Yeah.
Like when you have that removed, that is going to be monumental. Then you basically say, yeah, it could be used as a medium of exchange without all the fucking headaches that go along with it right now. So Roger Ver would agree with that one, I think.
Former U.S. citizen Roger Ver now asking for a pardon, even though he renounced his citizenship. Whoops. A bit of a mistake there, Raj.
So who the heck was it? Jameson Lopp he wrote up something interesting today on him. He said the problem with this is that he may have renounced his citizenship, but he had to have paid an exit tax. And when he left the United States at the time, he said his Bitcoin holdings were 0. And so even though he may have been living in a different country all this time and renounced his citizenship and all that jazz, still there's the thing, he didn't pay his exit tax. So that goes to show you, if you have Bitcoin and you don't pay that, they could come after you later on and just fuck with you, especially if there's an extradition treaty between the country where you're living in and the country in which you've left. So do your research if you're going to not do that.
Do your research.
Thorchain. Do your research, yes. Thorchain, you heard about this shitcoin project, Joy?
Frozen, insolvent. Lock it down.
Yeah. They're unable to meet their obligations, their financial obligations.
That's what I say to my wife when it's my turn to do the chores. I'm unable to meet my obligations.
They were offering yield on like Bitcoin and ETH and other things too. Like the question, like, how do you get yield, especially on Bitcoin too, right? I don't
What
get
could
it.
it be?
I mean, whatever. So a lot of questions, I guess, will never get answered because this thing is insolvent. At least, I mean, they're trying their best to keep this thing alive. I don't fucking care. But it leads me to the next thing. This is the one I really want to talk about. And I'm going to dust off an old segment of the show, which is a no coiner. And because the no coiner of the week, which is this Fred Krueger guy, which he was.
Oh God.
Is there a better no coiner of the week than this motherfucker?
No,
because he was out there and he was pushing this thing. I have no idea. I muted this motherfucker a long time ago, but this guy was able to get on prominent podcasts. People, a slick talker. Maybe he's a PhD in whatever the fuck he's in, whatever the fuck. But you could be a smart dude. You could have a silver tongue, but still the message. If you can't fucking see through it and see the guy's fucking selling you snake oil, you're fucked. And there's a lot of people like
this. He even wrote a Bitcoin book, Len. He even wrote a Bitcoin book.
That deserves to be never bought. Just let it fucking collect dust. This guy deserves no royalties. On top of all that, then he released a shitcoin this past week. I have no idea what the fuck it was, but apparently he rugged people for to like $1 million. I don't know.
Did he do it? I thought he did it twice. Wasn't it
even twice now? Okay, it's twice the no coiner of the week. Actually, 3 times, including his association with Thorchain. Why? Like, people out there, they have to they got to do their due diligence when you're dealing with people like this. He doesn't deserve the airtime. I don't understand how he has that many mental followers. I still don't know how the fuck he got on all these shows. Like people just, I hope he disappears, but unfortunately he's still going to stick around. For whatever reason, he's still, quote unquote, a prominent member of the community. How? Even though with his association with all this garbage, he's still around. Fuck him. Like, I hope he goes into the obscurity and is never heard of again. Don't buy his books. Don't listen to him. Mute his fucking thing. Don't give him any fucking airtime. Don't give him any views on his Twitter account, because then he's going to get X account. He's going to get paid for this. Just fucking let him rot. He could just fucking rot in hell after this. Just fucking him. Fuck him.
You want to know how he got all those followers, all those views?
I don't know. I'll
tell you how. I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how. He got them because, much like we've seen in the content space over the last year or so, everyone has gone to this brain rot slot model of Moon Boy commentary. And so you see it in titles, you see it in thumbnails, you see it all over the place. 1 trillion, this giant, that giant, 1.2 trillion. He's buying Bitcoin. He's sending Bitcoin to the moon. I mean, it's all bullshit. It's low IQ trafficking nonsense, right? Fine. We're never going to do that, by the way, on this program. No fucking way. But when you look at his content, it is the same in theme, even if it's just a little higher brow in terms of visuals and production. And so when he gets on these Bitcoin First spaces, which I've tuned into, he gets on other podcasts, he gets on various sort of one-off debates about stuff like the power law with Giovanni, stuff like MSTR with Punter Jeff and Raquant, stuff like, you name it, XYZ. And the commentary is always the same, right? We're going to 1 million. Nothing can stop it. You need to get on. Here's why you're right. Here's why you're right. Here's why you're right. Here's why you're over and over and over again. This is the thing. It's like, it's this constant sort of dopamine tickle, right? And your brain likes it. And if you're into that sort of unrelenting, just bullish narrative all the time, nonstop, then that's your guy, right? The same way that, a lot of channels, I've mentioned them on the show before. I'm not going to do it now. A lot of channels do the same shit on YouTube, right? They just pump out the same garbage all the time. The titles are all the same. You can go, if you type in like Bitcoin on YouTube, the likelihood that you see 10 thumbnails that look basically the same with titles that look basically the same with all caps letters, basically in the same, like, you're going to see it. Kruger was doing the same thing, and it works. There's no doubt about it. It works. The question is, what kind of audience do you get? And the other question is, what kind of person does that? Well, in this case, we know that both were subpar and definitely not as high quality as you would hope in Bitcoin, which is terrible because, he's like an old man. Like, why? Like, this is the direction you want to go. a guy who claims to be so accomplished, worked on Wall Street, worked at banks, worked in universities, he's got a PhD, as he always says, right? Doc, as the MSTR guys call him. You know, you're so accomplished, you had to rug pull a bunch of people. I think not once, but twice. Maybe once for sure, but maybe twice. I forget. And then as people called you out on it, you just made a video saying how you did it, but didn't actually explain to people why or how much money you made.
He's a
or
fiat maximalist to do this.
He's a con artist is what he is. He's a con artist. He took a lot of money from a lot of people. And if he doesn't give it back, then that's all you need to know. Right. And so, you know, a guy like that with the thick rim glasses and that chair that all these rich guys have and the clickbait titles and the clickbait thumbnails and the moon boy, that's what you get. That's the kind of audience you get too, right? These are the same retards, you know, who buy the
Somebody's asking for some talking about Sailor.
Yeah, fuck, no, I'm not talking.
No, Sailor didn't rock anybody.
But it's just like,
maybe,
you know, this is the story of the cycle, right? This whole Moon Boy theme, and I want to shout out one channel, Pleb Underground, Coin Icarus, and I think the other guy's name is Walton. Those guys do pretty good content. I listen to it as often as I can. They never Moon Boy. Guys like Robin Sayer, even, you know, he's starting to Moon Boy a little bit. It's just like even BTC Sessions could do anything with his content. He never Moon Boys. You know, he's doing tutorials. He's doing why are we bullish? He's doing some new stuff. He's never baiting you into something with a huge number and a Bitcoin's going to $1 trillion. But Kruger was doing that basically. And that's, you know, when you have a guy doing that, this is the outcome you can expect. People who are dumb enough to buy the token, people who are dumb enough to watch, and a guy who's just barely smart enough to make it, you know, look like he's got plausible deniability in the whole thing. I was just doing a test. I was just showing how easy it was. We'll give the money back then. No, I don't think so. Okay. Well, that's the whole story.
You know, one thing you just mentioned with these two tokens, I think 1 million tokens a week are being minted. That's according to Brian
Coinbase,
Armstrong.
right? Are we talking about Coinbase now? Is that where we're going here?
No.
Coinbase wants to crowdsource the token approval process. They want to stop reviewing every token because there's so many being approved or being minted now. He wants it to be basically a free for all. Total degeneracy everywhere.
Oh, see, at one point they were saying that they only wanted tokens that were like there wasn't 50% held by a particular entity.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's a pre-mine and
it had some rules, right? Rules, yeah.
So they're following, like they're chasing the money here as much as possible. But this is a sign that looks like the market is just a fevered pitch. Could it be that we're now this is the all-time high for this cycle? I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen. But when you look at it, 1 million tokens being issued or minted every week, all garbage. There's no fundamentals. There's nothing along. It's just, and these ETFs, there's something like 15 ETFs a week that are being submitted that are related to directly or indirectly to Bitcoin. This is something I look at it, it's like, man, oh man, this is unsustainable. And eventually there's going to be a lot of interest lost in it. It's going to be going somewhere else. Plus, you know, just what we saw with this new AI, what's it called? Fuck is it?
Or something?
DeepSeek. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, could you imagine like just somebody releasing an app and it impacts the market to that degree? Like, how fragile is the market that an application could come out there? Granted, I mean, there's maybe some merit here, but still, like, just one application could just take
what is the merit?
Hundreds of billions.
Yeah, like it's crazy. You're right. The thing is, I think you said this with me and Mark today, right? I think you wrote that like this whole thing is just a house of cards. Clearly, 16% on Nvidia today. How many? Like what is the Nvidia weighting in the S&P ETFs? Is it 20%?
Wow,
10%?
I didn't even.
What is it?
It goes to show you what's the level of conviction of the Nvidia investors. If something comes out that like this, and there's still lots we have to learn.
So Nvidia in the S&P 500. This is VFV. This is the ETF that I use when I buy the index. It's 7%, exceeded only by Apple, which is 7.6%. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's a big weight. That's a really big weight. So, and those are price agnostic buyers, right? So people are not selling the ETF because Nvidia goes down. It's probably the opposite, right? Those people just buy on repeat on a schedule. So
I just want to go back. Like, how paper-handed are these individuals once this thing comes out and they say, fuck, I'm just going to sell whatever cost, whatever price it is. I want out. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to hold it anymore. Like, with respect to Bitcoin, I can guarantee you, if it goes even to like $10,000 tomorrow, like if it drops literally 90% tomorrow morning, I am not fucking selling. I'll buy some more, and I'll be happy doing it. That's the level of conviction I have. Of course, nobody has. I mean,
do your own research. We don't know your particular financial situation.
I don't fucking care. This is just me. Advice. No, it's not. I'm not saying anything. This is my opinion. This is what I'm doing. So I mean, I'm just trying to say, like, I don't know if people have that about Nvidia. Oh, if it drops 90%, I'm still gonna fucking hold on to it, and I'm gonna buy some more because there's only a certain amount of fucking shares in existence. They're not gonna mint anymore, and I can hold on to my own shares. I can verify it. No, you can't. There's none of this shit. It's fucking possible. It's like, fuck that.
Never forget the Nvidia CEO signed some girl's boob at a press event like 4 months ago.
Oh,
that might have been the top. Is there such a thing as a top sign? That might be one.
Yeah, there you go. So what I'm trying to get at is like the markets in general, and including Bitcoin. Who knows what's going to happen with the price, and it could really take a tumble. And I think somebody posted an Arthur Hayes article. I don't know if it was you or somebody else.
Me and Mark were talking about it in our chat too. Yeah.
And he was saying that it could potentially go down. You can see the 75. All this price talk of where he thinks things can go, or who the hell knows? But I'm just trying to say, just the way I'm looking at things, I don't know. It's possible we could see a pullback. As to what price, I don't know what the fuck it could pull back to. But obviously, there's people. You just release something, and hundreds of billions of dollars is lost in one particular company of market value. Like, things aren't looking good.
Why? Like, what? We're due for a significant drawdown. There's no sign anywhere that the economy is healthy here, United States, any European country, UK, you name it. Like, so when the question is like, when is it not? It's not if, it's when. The up and to the right thing is nuts. I saw this great chart the other day of sort of the distance from the mean during some of the biggest bubbles. You had the 08 bubble, the .com bubble, and now the Mag 7 is like literally 7 times higher than even the closest second place bubble. And so
it's telling sign.
It's again, AI chip middle-aged CEO signing some C-cup tit at a press event is a top sign. That is a top sign.
Going back, the .com bubble.
I cannot think of it. When the history books reflect on this period, okay, it's going to be Sam Altperson from OpenAI trying to take the company private and pull up the ladder on the legislation. It's going to be NVIDIA guy signing a boob. It's going to be, I think Saylor will be in there too, fucking probably with this, equity issuance. I don't know.
People visiting islands. Joey, the .com thing, when it blew up, is because it ran out of steam, right? Like it blew up on its own, and it just ran out of steam on its own. 2008, mortgage-backed securities and all this, like it was just, it was bound to fail. Since then, we haven't had something on its own force a market correction. The 2020 was an external factor. They had to shut down the world in order to make that drop, right? So whatever ticking time bomb is still there, is waiting to go off. It hasn't yet gone off, and it's approaching 20 years since we've had the last blow up on its own. So that I'm just waiting. What the fuck is it going to be? Because there's some crack in the system somewhere.
Don't forget, there's some people that think this is done now. The business cycle is done now because of fiscal dominance. They'll print out of it and nominally, So maybe that is the case. Maybe the recessions are only for people who are digging into the data, and everyone else is just wondering why the Campbell's soup is so much more money. Maybe that's what happens next, right? I don't know.
All I can say is I want more sats tomorrow than I have today.
Yeah,
that's all I care about in terms of my finances. Totally. That's it. So what? Let's just end it. We're an hour in.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everyone. If you're here on video, enjoying the show live, hang in. We're not going anywhere. If you're on audio, stay tuned for the back half tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves.
And unfollow and mute Fred Krueger.